Hello everybody, today is Sunday, October 10th. This is the severe weather outlook for Norman, Oklahoma. A moderate risk of severe weather today for Norman and the surrounding areas. All severe hazards are likely and significant tornadoes are possible with these storms. The severe weather continues on Tuesday for the Oklahoma area, but we will only discuss today's severe weather because it's big enough on its own. There's a 15% chance plus significant chance of tornado, a 45% chance plus significant chance of wind, and a 30% chance plus significant chance of severe hail. That is in effect for all of that red area, or at least most of that red area on the map there, from Lawton almost all the way to Bartlesville, including Muskogee, Tulsa, Stillwater, Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore, and all of the other places in between within that red contour. Severe weather will also exist within the orange and yellow contours, and of course is possible outside of those areas, but the current threat is generally in those areas. Let's begin with the tornado threat. Let's discuss what 15% chance plus significant means. It means that there is a 15% chance within anywhere of that red area. There is a 15% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any point. So, for example, Norman, Oklahoma, there is a 15% chance that there is a tornado within 25 miles of Norman. There is also, anywhere within that black hatched area, the area with dashes, there is a 10% chance of an EF2 tornado anywhere within 25 miles of that area. So again, in Norman, there's a 10% chance of an EF2 or greater tornado within 25 miles of the area. Again, these are usually, sometimes we'll see a 10% chance in a hatch. A 15% chance in a hatch usually means that we're going to see something big today. And so that's what the Storm Prediction Center is trying to convey to us. This early on, the tornado threat will be supercellular. So your classic supercell tornadoes stand alone by itself, produce a nice tornado, and that's what will happen with that. But as we move on later into the evening, those discrete supercells, those separate supercells will form into a line called a quasi-linear convective system. So it's not quite linear, but it's quasi-linear. And so the idea is that those also, due to the strong updrafts expected, and I'll talk more about that later, there is a tornado threat even once this forms into a line of storms. Usually those tornadoes are brief, but they're still tornadoes nonetheless, and so something we want to keep an eye on. So the tornado threat will persist for the entirety of this event. Severe wind also a threat, of course. With the discrete storms, those tend to bring a little bit of wind with them, a good amount of wind with them. But as it becomes a line of storms, that's when we have our classic shelf clouds, things like that, where we get very strong winds and usually fairly significant. As a result, there is a 45% chance of 60-mile-an-hour winds, again, within that 25-mile radius, like I said earlier, and a 10% chance of hurricane force winds within, again, the same 25-mile radius. So again, that threat is generally later on, and that's why we see it shifted up towards the Tulsa area rather than the Lawton area, is because this will be later in the event that wind becomes a primary concern, but is still a concern nonetheless throughout the event, which is why we have that hatched area of significant wind all the way down to Lawton as well. If we move on to the hail threat, again, that is generally an early side event. It's certainly possible later on and throughout the event, lines of storms can produce severe hail, but usually don't. There's a 30% chance plus significant. So again, 30% chance of hail, 10% chance of big hail. And again, that's more centered towards the Lawton area, but continues into Norman and Oklahoma City as well. Norman and Oklahoma City basically in the sweet spot between severe winds, severe hail, and severe tornadoes. Norman and Oklahoma City, that general area in the center of the action. Again, this large hail threat will generally be earlier in the formation of all these supercells, which will then become a line of severe storms. Let's talk about timing as we see early on that 4 to 7 p.m. window. Again, that's when we'll see supercells, but usually they aren't super strong quite yet. They'll probably get stronger around 5:30, 6 o'clock as we head towards that time frame. And that's when we're going to want to continue to watch areas such as Stillwater, Oklahoma City, Lawton, those areas should begin to get on guard around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening is the earliest possible window, I think, that we'll see severe storms. And again, that's most likely to occur probably around 8 or 9 p.m. and we should be all clear by around 10 or 10:30 this evening in the Norman area, is my thought at this point in time. So again, that's our severe timing of these storms today. Let's take a look at the radar according to the HRRR model. We see those discrete storms early forming into that line as it reaches the Oklahoma City metro area. Again, around the time it reaches I-35 is when it becomes that line. But even beforehand, again, we could see those supercells as well. Let's take a look at another model. This is the NAM 3K showing basically the same thing. Again, that line of storms forms much quicker here. But again, further to the south, say south of the OKC metro area, is where we still have some of those discrete storms that could produce tornadoes and, of course, large hail. And so that's the main idea at this point. But again, that line of severe storms very likely to occur. Let's take a look at the updrafts from the HRRR. Again, very high updraft helicity values. This is, of course, updrafts is how we get large hail, how we get tornadoes. All of that generally centered over just north of the Oklahoma City metro area, say like around Edmond or so. If we move on to the NAM 3K, though, that threat is a bit further to the south, including Norman and Moore, Lawton, places like that, probably all the way up to Tulsa, I believe, on this map as well. And so basically a line from Lawton to Tulsa with Oklahoma City in between, according to the NAM 3K. This is not an ideal scenario, but it's certainly one that could happen and is not good news. Let's take a look at a sounding. And this is the 16Z HRRR. That I got it mixed up with the next slide, but that's fine. Like I've been mentioning on these soundings, there's a few things we want to look at. Number one, that we really like to look at the graph in the upper right-hand corner there and see how curved that is and how big it is. In this case, it's really big and really curved. And what that means is, as we see in the box under there that says PDS Tor, there's a good chance of a big tornado in Norman. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen. It just means that the conditions are favorable for that to happen. And we know this because we take a look at the other values, generally those numbers down underneath all of these graphs, which can be computed from this stuff up above. We have CAPE values around 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is huge. Low SIN values, which is good news. High lapse rates above 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. We have high SRH values, which again, that's that helicity, that updraft values. We have very high shear values. And again, that's what makes the hodograph look so good, is we have so big shear values. We have 31 knots of shear in the lowest 1 kilometer of the atmosphere, which is absolutely crazy. And that continues all the way up. If we take the bottom 8 kilometers of the atmosphere, we have over 100 knots of shear, which is absolutely wild and not good news. Very favorable for tornadoes when we have that much shear going on in the atmosphere. So again, that's something to keep an eye on. This is just the HRRR representation of it. If we move to the NAM 3K, again, this is the 12Z NAM 3K. I got the times mixed up there, but they're both for 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. It's not as crazy as a hodograph. That's that graph up there. But it's still not ideal at all. We see, again, high CAPE values, not quite as high helicity values, and not quite as high shear values. But that shear, nonetheless, is absolutely huge. And we are lacking in a few of the lapse rates, but still the lapse rate is decent, which means, again, a tornado could occur, and that's why we have that possible hazard type of tornado. So again, this could be big. It has the potential to be big. I'm not saying it will be. Of course, a lot of things can change. We don't even have the convection initialized yet, and I probably won't have another video out until after the event, if there's something to talk about after the event. So this is what we're talking about. It could be big. Will it be big? I don't know, but we'll find out together, I'm sure. The way you're going to stay updated on this is spc.noaa.gov, weather.gov/OUN. That's the Norman Weather Forecast Office. And if you text at SoonerWX to 81010, that'll keep you guys updated on everything to the moment. I'll be sending out alerts throughout this event as we begin to learn more about what exactly is going to go down this week. So again, prepare right now for all the severe hazards tonight. It could occur as early as 6 or 7 p.m. We should be in the all clear by 10 or 10:30 this evening. Again, tornadoes and large hail will be a significant concern tonight. I think that does us for now. Again, this is extremely serious. Again, nothing is for certain, but this is extremely serious. If it does happen, it's extremely serious, and there's a good chance of it happening. So again, please just prepare, do what you can, let everybody know to stay weather aware overnight tonight and into this evening. That's all I have for now. Chris Dixon and Weather, Catholic Beacon.